Please welcome Charlie Rose, Gayle King, and Norah O'Donnell. That sounds perfect. There you go. Nice to see all three of you. Thank you for being here.
You know,
he sang Lovely Day when we were coming out.
I know, it is a lovely day to have you here. Yeah.
The most important thing I wanted to do is not trip. I tripped last time when I was Frankenstein.
Well, you don't have the Frankenstein boots anymore.
Exactly.
Or the prosthetics on your face.
Indeed.
That was the nicest thing you ever did to me, was surrender your dignity for one of my shows. Because I know you've got a lot of dignity.
And physically, I'd never look better.
No, you look fresh.
Yeah.
You look like a fresh. At least your head was.
Stephen, he likes to surrender his dignity.
Does he? We'll get into that in just a moment. I'd like to hear some stories of Charlie surrendering his dignity.
Or not.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the conventions next week, just for the people watching at home and for the people in here, we're actually recording this on Thursday evening for the Friday show. And right before the show, we found out, and the people in the audience may not even know here, that there has been an attack in Nice, France, where dozens of people have been killed. Do we know what do we know about it so far? What can you guys tell me from CBS News?
We know that there were a lot of people injured as well as those that were killed. We know that the vehicle crashed into a crowd. It's a tragedy. People died in the south of France. And too many of these things are happening.
And they were watching the fireworks celebrations because this is Bastille Day right now.
It was breaking as we were walking in. But
It was just moments before we walked in here,
Yeah, this is terrorism related. And I think one of the hardest things that we've had to do as a team in the morning is we wake up sometimes to a lot of these events. And I think we all feel like whether it's domestically or internationally, in the past 2 years, we've had way too many of these tragedies to cover. Way too many.
Well, let's talk about the story for next week. We found out a little bit more of what's happening at the Republican National Convention, who some of the speakers are, who some of the speakers aren't. And when, like, all of Trump's adult children are going to be speaking next week, which should be fun to have them there. You guys are going to be down there for the full week and for the Democratic Convention. Which one, I mean, how many of these have you done? How many of these conventions have you gone to?
This would be my sixth.
Your sixth convention.
Well, the first one I went to was 1968. I was just out
in Chicago?
Yes. I went out.
Let's hope it's not as exciting as that.
Well, indeed. Yeah. I went out without a job, not a journalist, and was a driver for the New York Times. And it was the most exciting time I've ever seen.
You were like a...
Yeah.
And who did you drive around?
Reporters back and forth between where the convention was and the hotel they were staying in.
Are the conventions fun to go to?
Are you available next week?
Are they fun to go to? Is it like news? Is that like news camp? Because all the news organizations are there in one building. You know, it's like a festival.
I think they're fun, especially the Republican one. This will be my fifth, and I think it's very unpredictable what could happen at the Republican convention.
Especially this one.
Especially this one. You didn't mention that Antonio Sabato Jr. is also going to be speaking.
I did not know that. That's very exciting.
When I was coming in today, you remember him from Dancing with the Stars?
Very sexy. It's going to be a very sexy convention. Well, this must be really refreshing because, you know, what little fake convention coverage I've done, and this would be my fifth time at least making jokes about conventions, is that one of the things that we made jokes about, like the real news people, like you people out there, for years, is that it was all just a sort of a staged pageant, and you kind of sort of had to grudgingly go like, why are we here? Should we be covering this every year? But this is the first time it really feels like there could be big news on a daily basis at a convention.
I mean, Stephen, historically, the broadcast networks have reduced the amount of coverage we have given to these conventions because we believe that they're so heavily scripted, that they have become somewhat of a commercial. This convention for Donald Trump and the Republican Party is a seat-of-the-pants convention. It will be largely unscripted. Remember when Clint Eastwood came out on the final night?
With his chair.
With his chair.
I
He
do
shocked
remember
everyone.
that, yeah.
I just talked to a Republican source before I came on who said this is Clint Eastwood times 20, what we're going to see.
So it's like a jump ball, a jump ball every night?
A loyal Republican.
What's great for you, you'll be live.
I know, I'll be live every night. We'll be writing jokes up until the last minute. The convention ends at 11 o'clock. We have to write an hour show in half an hour before we go on the air.
Something tells me you're going to have a lot to say. Before I came in today, they were telling me, tennis balls and sleeping bags are banned outside the arena.
Sleeping bags are banned?
Sleeping bags. But guns are okay outside the arena. That just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I understand that
part of that is the
super
nature of the
soakers are
state.
not available.
Part of it is what?
The nature of the state, state law.
Open carry state.
Oh, so an open carry state. So in Ohio, you're allowed to carry a gun openly, but you can't bring tennis balls.
Yes, outside the convention.
Yeah.
Okay. What about a tennis ball gun?
That's okay.
Well, under circumstances.
So what about Mike Pence being
What about
the
that?
nominee? Is that more exciting or less exciting? Because light does reflect off him, but I don't know anything else about Governor Pence than that.
Vice presidents don't win elections.
Okay, they can hurt, though.
They can hurt, or they can help by giving an aura to the candidate, that he's serious, that he's presidential, that he's chosen someone to balance his own experience.
Why do you think he picked him?
Well, it's interesting because remember in the beginning he said he wanted an attack dog.
Yeah.
And then the next day he said no, he didn't want an attack dog, that he wanted somebody that was going to compliment him and that would help him on the ticket. This will be very interesting to see what happens.
The truth of the matter is that Donald Trump is doing very poorly among evangelicals, Christians, people who turn out to the polls. Mike Pence is extremely popular. This is a nod to the right wing of the Republican Party to shore up his base. It's also a nod to the establishment wing of the Republican Party who have distrusted him, and quite frankly, many of them are not showing up at the convention. Mike Pence served a dozen years in Congress, rode through the leadership. He's viewed as someone who could be a presidential candidate in the future.
And
it's a safe choice. It's
He
a
thought
safe
about
choice
himself.
in many ways in terms of shoring up the Republican Party.
And he has access to money.
Access to money?
The Koch brothers like him a lot, it is said.
Okay.
Charles Koch. And so
Trump has access to some money, too, supposedly.
not Koch money. That kind of money in the Republican Party is big.
I suppose so. Well, the interesting thing to me about Trump picking Pence, the supposed leader of the Republican Party now, Trump picking Pence, the safe choice, is that I think if it was reversed, if Pence had been the nominee, I can't imagine him picking Trump.
So who would pick Trump,
Yeah,
Stephen
well, so
Colbert?
from a-
Who would pick Trump?
I would.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little break, but stick around. We'll be back with more Gayle King, Norah O'Donnell, and our friend Charlie Rose. Stick around.